This is day 749 of the Arukh HaShulchan Yomi. If you'd like to sponsor a company, share more of the Arukh HaShulchan Yomi, please contact directly. It'd be greatly appreciated. Today we're doing Simon Tov Samach Aleph, A through Yud Gimel. Hey, Tov Lachmi L'chol Shalol Lefos Charora B'Emetz. It's best to be stringent and to protest, not to bake a cake in the hot coals. Also not to bake in the sun. In both cases, you should be concerned that it might become chametz before it starts baking. If you violated this and baked, remetz mutar. If it's in hot coals, it's mutar b'achila. Let's eat it. We got to make the obligation. If it's baked in the sun, that's not called enough of the application. That which is baked in the sun, it's not called bread. Lechem oni, bread of affliction. But you're going to find as bread that which is baked in the fire of an oven, or a pan below mashke, without any liquid. The loma now which is baked in the sun. Eat it as mutter b'di'evet. If you manage to make the heat of the sun so strong that it managed to bake the matzah, then means it's obviously not going to let it become chametz. So you can't use it for matzah's mitzvah, but the evet, I guess it means in shas chak. The situation you are allowed to eat it. Also, if it's baked in the ground. So whole you're making you're making the ground of the oven. You put there flour and water mixed together. It's baked there. Even though it's very, its batter is very soft. It doesn't look like bread. That's why you don't make a bracha motzi of it. Unless you do kovei suda by having a substantial amount of it. Person can fulfill his obligation this on Pesach even deliberately. He should say lechem oni. This is the bread of affliction. Well, ani she'ein lo tanur v'felach ma'okakar, just like a poor person who doesn't have a real oven and bakes his bread in the ground. And although the rest of you make a mazonos, just like Sfardim have the same look about matzah. The rest of you make on a mazonos. On Pesach you make a matzah. Pesach because on Pesach we're not allowed to eat real bread. This is your bread. Mishnah Berurah says that you have to be kovei suda on it, literally. In other words, you need 3 or 4 kibetzim. It's not just suda because it's the only type of bread available. So that is the big one between Mishnah Berurah and Arukh HaShulchan. As I said, the Arukh HaShulchan seems to be more have a precedent, and what the Sfardim do with matzah itself. The matzah has to be baked well enough that if you snap it, then aren't little fine hairs or strings of batter drawing from it. And if that's the matzah, with it. I feel even when you carry it, it snaps. It's very brittle. You fulfill the obligation with it. So there aren't these strings of flour that come from it. Not flour, of dough. But if these strings of dough do come from it, it's a way to fulfill the obligation. It's not bread, it's dough. And the sign to tell when you reach the stage now is when the crust is formed. You should be careful. Not take it from the oven before that time, and put it back. They should do over the chimbutz, because in the time it's outside the oven, it can come to be fermented. But after this time has elapsed, you can take it out and put it back. As it's ready, then it's considered fully baked. And they're not sure if the strings or hairs of dough would still come out from it. Yesh lachmir. There should be error and slight stringency. The Mishnah Berurah says if you have the matzah only which reach that stage, it's also even best in merubah, and even if you will lose your simcha, you have to as a result. Says Arukh HaShulchan Medadein Lakir Zeh Rak Shepas Cham B'Lo B'Tzoni. You can only notice this when the bread is hot, not when it's cold. Let's cream up cream panim. Then you have to see if it's crusted over Shezenikar Gam B'Tzonein, which you can see even if it cooled down. In other words, the strings of flour of dough come out of it. You can't tell when it's hot, but you can tell whether it's fully baked both before and after, whether it's hot and when it's cold. If you touch it with your finger doesn't stick to it. It's an evidence that it's past the stage where strings of dough would come out of it. The Mishnah Berurah says perhaps it's only when it's warm that this evidence, perhaps when it's cooled down it's not evidence. Arukh HaShulchan does seem to distinguish. Those who say to the if you took it from the oven before it reached that stage where it's not even that stage where little strands of dough will come out of it, then it's also immediately when you move from the oven. Mishnah Berurah says if you put it back right away, you don't have to aser, but it's not kedai, he says, to use it to fulfill the obligation of matzah, which seems interesting dichotomy. If it's matzah, it's matzah. If it's not matzah, it's not matzah. And when it's Mishnah Berurah, perhaps I should look inside and find out if one can resolve that. Anyway, the reason why he says not, if it's not yet at that stage and you take it out, it could become chametz immediately. When the Arukh HaShulchan explains that hachim was chametz because of the heat, it becomes chametz immediately. But if you're not sure if it got that stage, because our matzah is so flat and hard, this state it really does not really prevail ever in our stage of baking. Sure, it is said in our type of baking. A person with full obligation with matzah which is soaked in water. Actually, did not dissolve. If it's dissolved, not full obligation. Like it says in the Masech. If you dissolve matzah, swallow it, don't fulfill the obligation. If you cooked it, even if it isn't dissolved, don't fulfill the obligation. That you shouldn't put a matzah in a kli rishon, the mavashel, because the kli rishon cooks. Shouldn't be put in a kli sheni if there's no no necessity for it. The rishon is batal matzah because when you bake it, you negate the taste of matzah. The matzah, so you don't really have to taste it. If you swallow matzah, you fulfill it. Matzah. Because no taste much less seen tough. I know the low bainer. She told time matzah repeat. That means you don't have to taste the matzah in your mouth. More like you do with mark, much time with shom, like you right there. Avog mikom tzirkalios tam matzah bemeil. Interesting thing. Got to be taste the matzah in the stomach, which is exactly what that means. But uvisho raise kilo matzah kal. If you cook it, it's not like matzah at all. The shriya zushamar this soaking, which you said is dafka b'mayim. Some say it's only okay if it's in water, but not in wine. Matzah, which negates the taste of matzah. Unless you're compelled to soak in wine. Some people say it's all the same. You only have taste in your stomach. I'm not sure what the difference is. Matzah. The wine also does not negate the taste of matzah. Since machlokes smoking Avraham and Taz here. The chaim beroitim and in the gravy, the same thing. Actually, you chaim klirishon as long as they're not hot as a klirishon, not hot in the form of klirishon. That of Hilamayim still even with water low to Rakachol Zakin, it's only for a sick or elderly person, Shem Mekholim Lachol Matzah, or you can't eat dry matzah. Or Mishis Kachim Shin of somebody who doesn't have the teeth to chew it. Mishis Chol Lachol Yavish, somebody who eat a dry low trolo Shia is not allowed to soak it. The Ikata Matzah have a Yveshos, because the primary taste of matzah is when it's dry. The Mishnah Berurah says somebody who's sick or elderly who can't go, it's not enough to soak in water. You can soak in wine, other beverages. The other people who eat matzah, which is soaked in other beverages except for water, they're not yoked to the obligation, and they have to go back and eat another matzah, whether it's the kazayis of moti matzah or the kazayis of the afikoyma. Test imovu matzah chametz tanur echad. If you even if you bake matzah chametz in the same oven, lo nesra. Imagine trying to get away with this. The matzah does not become also until it's touched the chametz directly. Shemreach chametz lo nesra, because the fragrance of chametz it doesn't come also. Even though those who say reich hamilsa and the fragrance of chametz is also on Pesach, dafka reich shel shamnunis make a reich. It's only the fragrance of something which has some fattiness to it. Lo reich shel pas, not the fragrance of bread. They touch each other. Malkum would take from the place where they touch the amount of kedei netila, 9 kofi etz by the thickness of a finger. The can absorb more than Yosim Shiyazeh can absorb more than that amount. There's no oiliness at all. We should be concerned will spread the taste. It says it seems to me they're making the same pan asura kula also. So you call machas because the entire pan is now absorbed from chametz because of a luchal matzah, and that is released into all the matzah. But the tzarek kedei netila bekula, and you would have to take a kedei netila in the entirety of the matzah. But by definition, matzah is never an etzba thick. Cheni really therefore says the Gamatana echad she'eno oser k'moshi's bar. Therefore says also that which he said in one oven it does not. So zeuk shelo you are rovid echad. That's when they aren't on the same level of the oven. It's as if they're two vessels. The same surface, I should say. They all become if all the stone is one, all the stone oven is one stone, asura it's forbidden. Mishra says even a small oven, in which you closed up the opening, people are which were machmir. In the case of before, will we actually do this mission? Yeah. Even the town of I don't know what it's saying because he's contrary. I'm not sure how this fits into this Arukh HaShulchan here. Okay, Yud Kasar Rabbeinu Aramah B'Siv Hey Matzah she's kafla b'tanur v'dvuka. Matzah got doubled over in the oven, and it's the pieces are stuck together. I changed to the point that the fire can't get in between those two parts are stuck together. Asurim with osim also basically can't eat that part of the matzah during Pesach. Avashar matzah shabbatunah mutar, but the other matzahs in the oven are permitted. When Pesach ain't lo so rakum makom adavuk. And before Pesach, only the place where it's double, if it was baking for Pesach, the place where it's doubled over is also the rest of the matzah mutter. So therefore, saying that on Pesach, if you bake such a matzah, you have to ask the whole piece. If it's before Pesach, you only have to ask the place where it was stuck together. And this is only where it's actually stuck together, says Arukh HaShulchan. Well, actually, it was an Akal Shono, which I'm not sure if I'm right. It's talking about Dovuk Akal Shono. Dafka Duka Mamish, it's actually, the other place is literally stuck together. Klomashi Skapla, Matzah, Miksasa, part became doubled over, and the other part, these Dapka Mamish became actually connected together. Then the fire does not get in among the two of them. Ava Besmuchim, but they're adjacent to each other without being connected, and you don't be concerned at all. To those who forbid this, even low karmu panel. If they're adjacent to each other, unless we see that there's a clear crust there, it's no good. Shmuel says if you're in doubt, it's also awesome. If it's not crusted over there, it's clearly not baked over there. That's where we see a doubled up matzah in front of us. It's not matzah, but if you have generic matzah in front of you, you don't need to see the crust all over. Obviously, the crust here is the brown part, which you don't see by all entire matzah. In that case, you don't have to be chayshish, even though you don't see that crust, it's fine. The funny yesh beitzim shouldn't become cream was part of it. Sometimes dough which doesn't become browned. Before Pesach, only place where it's stuck together is also, and you toss it out. Even there isn't 60 in entire matzah to negate the place where it's stuck together. It would still make it, it's not real chametz. Also, it doesn't, it's not something which dissolves and gets absorbed throughout the rest of the matzah. It's matzah, it doesn't get absorbed, it's spread throughout it. Those who require that the entire matzah is 60 times the amount which is doubled over. The primary law said, first opinion, you don't need 60. The Gedolim agreed with this. Taz and Yaakov and the Magen Avraham. If you have a double over matzah which touched the another matzah makom shenech kefal, it's doubled over. Oseres, it's forbidden to kedei netila up to shiur kedei netila. Shamakom kefal ain't oseres that matzah touched another matzah, but it's not the place where it was doubled over. There's no problem whatsoever. Yav yesh li b'zeh shelo. I have a question. Matzah kfula dvuka mamish shosanu nesha ena ish nichmas ben adveikim. Matzah is doubled over and it's connected together, which we answered. What logic is this? If you had a thick matzah with double what it is now, we didn't forbid it in obvious attempts, as long as it's more than tefach thick. So it's doubled over. What's the difference between that and a thick matzah? On the contrary, when it's doubled over, it should be like one thick matzah. It should be perfectly fine. The truth is that a double over matzah is not a halacha which you find in the Gemara at all. So I have to say the Kabbalah that the ancients had a tradition. The Shnei Gushei Isam, the Bukim said when you have two clumps of dough which connect to each other, the fire does not get in among them. Well, you say to near hefech. I would think the opposite. If they're glued together, there's no problem because it's one dough. Shame the Bukim. They're not connected together. In other words, there's a gap. Then perhaps the fire won't get in among them. Okay, Moshe say okay. Since the rabbis can say this, but our poor intellect is negated vis-a-vis their great intellect. Yillah says that somebody says, I don't know what Chamam is, that nevertheless, if there is another reason we make it, so then you can make it even if they're biting into each other. And the prohibition is, it says, when you separate them from each other, they break off from each other without that connection. I guess connection means you break them off. So it's okay according to Shibura. Not sure. Whenever we find a double or matzah, we can. As Mana said, we just don't eat that part. You base Okosav. We also wrote matzah in the fucha b'emtzios, matzah which is bloated in the middle. So it's forbidden. Allah aleh krum kadesh Allah pas b'shasavia as a crust like bread gets when it's being baked in the terrace is permitted. Akam shono. End quote from the Ramah. Here's the Shnei Perushim. Two interpretations here. Echad matzah in the fucha b'emtzios. It's puffed up in its middle, and therefore it's broken in two. In the two parts, up and down. There's a cavity between the two of them. Sheni, the second shot is they are. The entire matzah in the middle went up in one layer, not two layers. One layer like a hill in the mountain in the middle. Those who say that compare Sheni, so those say only in the second scenario there's an issue of chimutz. Bread of chametz lifts itself on up high because of the strength of the fermentation. It's cracked in two layers. So because then again the holes were made and the perforation not made it properly. Then it's not a problem. The interesting those who answer gam kifia peirush harishon was also even according to the first interpretation. If it's really bubbled up in the middle, they consider that there's an issue of potential chametz, and the Mishnah says everybody agrees that there's such a chashash. But Arukh HaShulchan continues, you only forbid that matzah, this and that more than it. Matzahs don't like a klach chashash. The fucha matzahs don't have this bloating problem. The doctors are very thin. But I mean, the fucha ma'at perhaps sometimes it's puffed up a bit because of the lack of punctures. Only because of the heat of the fire. I saw that dakusa which pushes up on its thinness, magbia and lifts it up. Rabbi Chusha to say clearly, see clearly. I made a lot of time was the fucha. We sometimes never asked matzah because it was bloated. He said, Mishnah says, if you want to be machmir, when it gets mixed together, other matzahs you don't have to be machmir. The rak with vuka only if it's actually connected together. The same as Vegas, we take off the double apart. Omi amasamu cloth together with a little bit next to it, mashlichim, and we toss it. The answer is safe enough to burn it. Ain't no chametz. It's not real chametz. It's just a chumrah. The halacha says, and Avram says that some people are machmir to burn it. They find it inside when Pesach was already begun. You get okas. I will also write. Shnei matzos shloch was also the matzos lying in but tanur in an oven. According to my philosophy for the bake. Asurin, they're forbidden. Dava kamatz kul. It's like a double of matzah. Chayes yisrael something that to be careful. Shlo yiguz zeh bezeh. The tanur they shouldn't touch each other in the oven. Both them lachim when they're moist. Ki ein ha'ur shleim mokum nigiyasan, because the fire can't get in a place where they're touching. Vaydeichem, then they come to chametz. Ad kan l'shono. With the Evid, im nashku zeh bezeh. The Evid, if they did bite into each other, shteim negogim b'toy tanur mata, and they will touch on the tanur on the floor. Oh, chomai shol the mata, or the heat of the fire is below b'tov, and it's a strong fire. V'nefa yafeh, if it gets well baked, the mutter is permitted. The bracket says here, Magen Avraham herich bin neked b'matzah zel osur. You have a hole in the matzah. He says it's also zel sim l'chimutz. It's something that's fermented, and also v'gam beblezlach. So it's true by blezlach as well. Ein shom. Arukh HaShulchan says the tanu klami and eka. I don't know the whole about v'gam blezlach lo ktani ktanim. Whatever this blezach is, like little bubbles, I assume, it has to be there. It's not a sign of it being coming chametz. Mishnah says that the achronim hold that if in the aser and within the thickness of matzah there's a hollow, then we say that that place of the matzah's hollow is also the rest minute, even if it had during Pesach, only also when there are significant bubbles there. The matzah has two holes, a hole within a hole. Some people ask the entire thing, not sure exactly what that means.